Today I'm going to show you how to crochet this really easy amigurumi elephant. For the supplies, you'll need Bernat blanket yarn or any yarn that you want to use. I'm using the super bulky yarn in the weight 6, and it's 100% polyester in the color Misty Green. You'll also need a 5.5mm crochet hook, a yarn needle, a pair of scissors, and a stitch marker. We're first going to start by making the elephant legs, and to do this we're going to first create a slip knot. I'll insert my hook underneath the first loop and grab the second one and pull through. First chain 2, and then in the second chain from the hook we're going to do 8 single crochets into that chain. So this is my first one. Here's my second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and finally 8. And then we're going to tighten it up and insert the crochet hook into the first stitch. And this will bring us into our second round. So I'll insert my stitch marker back in there, and that counts as the first stitch of the row. And back in that same stitch, we're going to do another single crochet. And we're going to repeat this all the way around. So we want to increase in each stitch, which just means 2 single crochets in each stitch across. I'm coming up on my last increase, so I'll insert 2 single crochets into that last stitch. And at the end of this row, you should have a total of 16 stitches. To start round 3, we're going to do 1 single crochet, followed by an increase in the next stitch. So I'll insert my magic ring after the first single crochet. And then the next stitch, it will be an increase, so 2 single crochets in that stitch. And then a regular single crochet. And we'll repeat this all the way around. I've made it back around, and I'm inserting my last increase into the stitch. And at the end of the round, you should have a total of 24 stitches. For round 4, we're going to do 24 single crochets in the back loop only. So in each back loop, we want to insert and do a single crochet until the end of the round. So I'm inserting my stitch marker into the back loop there and continuing to do 1 single crochet in each back loop until the end of the round. At the end of this round, you should have 24 stitches, and we're going to insert our hook into that first back loop that we created, and that will start our round 5. In round 5, we're going to do a regular single crochet in each stitch, so I already did my first one. And we'll continue to insert a regular single crochet into each stitch until we reach the end of the round. Once you reach the end of round 5, you should have 24 stitches, and we're going to repeat inserting a single crochet in each stitch until the end of round 8. And I'll meet you back at the end of round 8. I've reached the end of round 8 and I still have 24 stitches. And to begin round 9, we're going to do a single crochet followed by a decrease in each stitch across. So here's my first single crochet. And then a decrease. So I'll grab the first stitch and then grab the second and pull through all 3. Once again, single crochet, insert the hook in the first, pull through, insert into the second, and then pull through all 3. And we'll repeat this all the way around. At the end of round 9, you should have 16 stitches. And to begin round 10, we're going to do 16 single crochets in each stitch across. So here's my first one. And we're going to do 15 more across. I've reached the end of round 10 and I have 16 stitches. Repeat this until the end of round 14. The end of round 14, this is what the leg's looking like so far, and I still have 16 stitches. And to begin round 15, we're going to do 2 single crochets in the first 2 stitches, followed by a decrease. So here is my first single crochet, followed by the next single crochet, and then a decrease. So continue to do 2 single crochets, followed by a decrease until the end of the row. I'm approaching the end of round 15 and doing the last decrease, and at the end of the round you should have 12 stitches total. To begin round 16, we will do 12 single crochets in each stitch across. So insert a single crochet into each stitch all the way around. At the end of round 16, you should have 12 single crochets. And now we will begin round 17. And for round 17, we'll do 1 single crochet followed by a decrease in each stitch. So here's my first single crochet. Followed by a decrease. Repeat this until the end of the round. At the end of round 17, you should have a total of 8 stitches, and we're going to slip stitch into the first stitch and cut the yarn and pull it through to fasten off. This is what the first elephant leg should look like, and you're going to repeat this pattern to create 3 more legs. I went ahead and created 3 more elephant legs and stuffed each one with fiber fill or scraps of yarn laying around. To start the body, we'll first create a slip knot. and then chain 2. Insert your crochet hook into the first chain, and I'll add my stitch marker here. And you're going to continue this 6 more times, so do 6 single crochets into the second chain from the hook. After 6 single crochets, we're going to insert our hook into the first stitch to begin round 2. So for round 2, we will do an increase in each stitch, so 2 single crochets in each stitch all the way around. I just did my first one, and I'll put the stitch marker back in place. And in that same stitch, I'm going to do another single crochet. Repeat this pattern all the way around. At the end of round 2, you should have a total of 12 stitches. And for round 3, we're going to start by doing 1 single crochet, followed by an increase in the next stitch. And repeat the pattern of 1 single crochet followed by an increase until the end of the round. At the end of round 3, you'll have a total of 18 stitches around. And for round 4, we're going to do a single crochet, so I'll add my stitch marker back in, followed by an increase in the next stitch, and then a single crochet. So 1 single crochet, increase, 1 single crochet, 1 single crochet, increase, 1 single crochet. Repeat this until the end of the round. The end of round 4, you should have a total of 24 stitches. To start round 5, we're going to do a single crochet in the first 3 stitches. So there's my first one. It's my second and third, and then we'll do an increase in the 4th stitch. So 3 single crochets followed by an increase all the way around. At the end of round 5, you should have a total of 30 stitches. To begin round 6, we're going to be joining our first leg in this round. So to start off, we're going to do 6 single crochets. So here's my first single crochet, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. We're going to grab the first elephant leg and line it up with the next 4 stitches of the body, and we're going to work through the body into the top of the leg stitches. So we'll insert our hook into the front and the back stitches of the leg and pull the yarn through the leg and the body. Once again, we're going to do that in the second stitch, working into the leg. And you can see that it's starting to connect together. And then my third stitch, and finally into my fourth stitch, the corner of the leg. And you'll notice this is now tightly attached. And now we're going to work 11 single crochets in the next 11 stitches. Now we'll attach the second leg, so grab the second elephant leg and once again line it up against the next 4 stitches. And I'll insert my crochet hook into the leg and connect it to the body. I'll repeat the same thing in the next 3 stitches. After the second leg is attached, you should have 5 stitches remaining in row 6. At the end of row 6, you should have 30 stitches, and there is still a tail sticking out, so feel free to tuck that in or sew it into the body. Now we'll start on row 7, and for row 7 we're going to do 4 single crochets followed by an increase in each stitch all the way around. So there's my first one. Two, 3, and 4. And then we'll work an increase in the next stitch. And repeat the pattern of 4 single crochets followed by an increase all the way around. I'm at my final increase, And at the end of row 7, you should have 36 stitches. And this is what it should look like so far. To begin row 8, we're going to do a single crochet in each stitch across. And we'll repeat this until the end of the round. At the end of round 8, you should have 36 stitches, and we're going to repeat round 8 until round 10. Single crochet in each stitch across. At the end of round 10, you should still have 36 stitches, and to begin round 11, we're going to do 4 single crochets followed by a decrease. I did my first one, and I'll insert the stitch marker. Here's my first decrease. And we'll repeat the pattern of 4 single crochets followed by a decrease until the end of the round. As you reach the end of the round, you should have one more decrease. And at the end of this round, you should have a total of 30 stitches. For round 12, we will do a single crochet in each stitch across. At the end of the round, you should have a total of 30 stitches. To start round 13, we will do 3 single crochets, followed by a decrease all the way around. At the end of row 13, the total stitch count is 24 stitches. In row 14, we will do 2 single crochets followed by a decrease all the way around. After your last decrease, you should have a total of 18 stitches at the end of round 14. For round 15, we will be joining our first arm. So we'll start off by doing 4 single crochets. Grab your leg or first arm and connect it to the body in the next 4 stitches. As we did with the previous legs, we're going to work through the body into the leg. And finally, my 4th one. And this is what the first arm should look like. Single crochet in the next 5 stitches. After 5 single crochets, we're going to join the second arm. Take the arm and line it up with the next 4 stitches of the body. So we'll work our way from the body into the arm. In my last stitch, I'm grabbing the corner of the arm to secure it in place. And this is what it looks like. There should be 1 stitch remaining in the round. So do a single crochet into that stitch. At the end of round 15, you should have 18 stitches. Here's what the body with all the legs and arms attached look like. At this point, we will stuff the body with fiberfill or excess yarn scraps. I went ahead and added the excess yarn scraps that I had laying around. And now for round 16, we're going to do decreases across. So we'll go into the first 2 and do our first decrease. And I'll add my stitch marker to keep track of where I started. And we'll continue doing a decrease all the way around. At the end of round 16, the stitch count should be 9, and we'll be working our head directly above the body, so don't fasten off. In round 17, we will begin the head. To start the head, we will do an increase in each stitch around. This is my first stitch. And I'll go back into the same one and do a single crochet. We're going to repeat adding a single crochet increase in each stitch around. At the end of round 17, the stitch count is 18. To start round 18, we will do 2 single crochets followed by an increase in each stitch around. The end of round 18, the stitch count is 24. To start round 19, we will do 3 single crochets followed by an increase. The end of round 19, the stitch count is 30 stitches. In round 20, we will do 4 single crochets followed by an increase. We're at the end of round 20 and the stitch count is 36. In round 21, we will do a single crochet in each stitch across. And we'll repeat a single crochet in each stitch across until the end of round 26. So continue this for a total of 6 rounds. The end of round 26, you should have a total of 36 stitches. In round 27, we will do 4 single crochets followed by a decrease. I'm at my final decrease and The end of round 27 should have 30 stitches. For round 28, we're going to place our eyes. I'm using the Loops and Thread craft eyes. For the eye placement, we want to place them so that it lines up with the top of the shoulders. So I have my 2 fingers and it lines up there. And then we'll place it 2 rows down. So I'll insert my first eye 2 rows down there. I like to space the eyes out in between 7 stitches. So I'll count 7 stitches and insert the second eye, leaving 2 rows above. And once they're symmetrical, you can snap them in. For round 28, we will do 3 single crochets followed by a decrease. After your final decrease, you should have 24 stitches at the end of row 28. Round 29, 2 single crochets followed by a decrease. After your final decrease at the end of round 29, you should have a total of 18 stitches. And at this point, we're going to fill the head with fiber fill. I'm using excess yarn and some fiber fill. After you stuff your head, to start round 30, we're going to do a single crochet, and I've already done that, the first stitch, followed by a decrease in the next. And repeat this all the way around. Single crochet, followed by a decrease. The end of the round should have 12 stitches, and for round 31, we will be doing a decrease all the way around. So here's my first decrease. I'll add the stitch marker back in. And repeat this all the way around until the hole is somewhat closed. At the end of round 31, you should have a small hole remaining, and the stitch count is 6. So I'm going to do one more decrease and then pull through and cut the yarn. Using my sewing needle, I'm going to weave in the yarn to close the hole. To shut the hole closed, you'll insert your sewing needle and weave in and pull the yarn out. and repeat the same thing on the other side until you can no longer see the hole. After closing the hole, I'm going to insert my sewing needle through the head and pull it out. And then you can just snip the yarn. Looks a little bit like an alien without the trunk and ears, but that's what we'll be working on next. To make the ear, we'll start with the slip knot. Chain 2. Single crochet into the second chain from the hook. And continue to single crochet for a total of 8 stitches. After 8 stitches, insert the crochet hook into the first stitch. Do a single crochet to start off our second round. So I'll insert the stitch marker. For round 2, we're going to do an increase in each stitch across, so I'm going back into that same stitch. And there is one increase. And we'll repeat this all the way around. After 8 increases, you should have a total of 16 stitches at the end of round 2. To begin round 3, we will do a single crochet followed by an increase in each stitch around. At the end of round 3, you should have a total of 24 stitches. This is what it looks like. In round 4, we will do 3 single crochets followed by an increase. So I did 2, 3, and this is my increase. And we'll continue this pattern until the end of the round. At the end of round 4, you will have 30 stitches. Finally, for round 5, do 2 single crochets. So did my first 2, followed by an increase, and then 2 single crochets. Repeat the pattern of 2 single crochets, followed by an increase, and 2 single crochets until the end of the round. At the end of round 5, you should have a total of 36 stitches. And now we're going to slip stitch into the first stitch and fasten off. Cut the tail of yarn, leaving enough length to sew in the ear. Repeat the same pattern to create a second elephant ear. Now we'll start the elephant trunk. To begin, we will slip knot, chain 2, in the second chain from the hook, do 6 single crochets into that chain. I'm going to insert my stitch marker so that it's easier for me to keep track. Single crochet into our first stitch to start round 2. And for round 2 to 11, we're going to do 6 single crochets or a single crochet in each stitch across. The end of round 2, once again, we're going to insert our hook to start the next round. Repeat inserting a single crochet into each stitch until the end of round 11. At the end of round 11, this is what the trunk looks like so far. And to start round 12, we will do 1 single crochet followed by an increase. So that's 1, and then I'm going to do an increase in the next stitch. After round 12, you should have 9 stitches. And for rounds 13 through 15, we're going to repeat a single crochet in each stitch around. So you should be doing 9 single crochets in each round. I made it to the end of round 15, and for round 16 we're going to fold the top of the trunk flat and single crochet across the top. So I'll remove my stitch marker, and then I'm going to do 5 single crochets across, closing the top. This is what the trunk looks like at the end of round 16. And then we'll snip the yarn and fasten off, leaving a length of tail to sew in. Now onto assembling the remaining parts of the elephant. First, I'm going to attach the trunk, and to do this, I'm going to line it up a row or two below the eyes. I'll insert the sewing needle into the head and pull out the yarn from the front. We'll continue this technique of weaving inside the head and pulling the yarn out from the front. To fully secure the trunk onto the head, I'm going to insert my yarn needle into the last corner of the trunk and pull through. And to make sure it's in extra tight, you can do this a few more times. Now that the trunk is attached, I'm going to pull my yarn through from the back. So I'll insert the sewing needle first into the front of that trunk and pull it out from behind. And what I'm doing here is making a couple of knots to secure the yarn in place. I'm making a few more knots by pulling the needle into the trunk and then inserting it into that hole, then pull the yarn through to secure. After securing a few knots in the trunk, I'm going to insert my yarn needle through the elephant trunk to create a curled or a trumpet looking effect. I'll insert my needle once more and pull the needle out 3 rows down from the tip of the trunk. This part is also completely optional. If you want to keep your trunk lying flat, then you can snip off the yarn. Now we'll attach the ears, and for the ears, this is the correct side and this is the wrong side. Using the wrong side, we're going to fold it, not completely in half, but almost a quarter of that, like this. And then we're going to hold that in place and bring it over to the elephant. And I like to line it up so that it's 4 or 5 stitches away from the eye. And now I'll take my sewing needle insert the sewing needle into the elephant's head and pull it through the ear. And we'll continue to weave in from the inside of the head through the ear, connecting them both together. When you finish the first ear, you can insert your sewing needle into the head and pull the yarn through, and take your scissors to snip it off. We'll repeat the same thing on the other side of the elephant. So I folded my ear a quarter of the way and counted 5 stitches from the eye. Once complete, insert your sewing needle into the elephant's head and pull it out from the center. And then you can snip the yarn. After attaching the ears, I did notice I have a tail of yarn sticking out, so I'm going to go ahead and tie a knot and then tuck it into the ear. And if you have a tail, you can do this or you can cut it off. And here's the final product of the elephant after attaching the ears and the trunk. Really hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching, and please like, comment, and subscribe if this was helpful.